Welcome to the NEREJ NYREJ podcast. I'm your host, Rick Kaplan. And today's guest, we have Matt Combs, and he's with Erland Construction. Good morning, Matt. How are you?
Good morning, Rick. Good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Matt, tell me a little bit about your journey and how you started until where you are today.
Sure. So I was born and raised in the northeast corner of Connecticut in Windham County. I've always had a little bit of construction in my life from having, spent summers on my uncle's farm, and my grandfather, my maternal side actually, was a Finnish carpenter, cabinet maker. He used to make us toys as kids, so they're kind of all spread out now throughout the family, but he would make these beautiful cars and trucks and boats for us. So I was just always fascinated with his ability to build things, and so from an early age I kind of gravitated towards construction. Got to work with him a little bit before he passed away. And then when I went to college, I went to the University of Connecticut. I studied structural engineering. But even when I was in engineering school, I always knew I never wanted to really practice engineering. I still wanted to go into construction. So while I was finishing up my senior year at UConn, Erland was actually having a career fair for a new development that was happening there, which was a private-public partnership with the town of Storrs Mansfield, the University of Connecticut, and a developer there who were kind of redeveloping the whole downtown, building apartment buildings, some retail spaces. So I went to that career fair that Erland was having, got a job there working. This was in late 2010, beginning of 2011, so times were not good. Jobs were definitely at a premium then. So I actually fell back on my carpentry skills and kind of got a job as a laborer carpenter. Started the job with the super there, did a lot of safety work and kind of getting ready for the project. And then obviously pretty quickly as the project started going, got elevated into a field supervisor, and then ultimately started my progression to the office side of project management. I was down in Stamford, Connecticut after that project for a little while, did a high rise with Erland and another apartment building down there. And then in 2017, they asked me to come back up to Massachusetts, to the home office. And then I started working up here in Massachusetts. And, the rest, I guess, as they say, is kind of history. I was fortunate enough about 4 years ago to be made a partner in the company, which, was obviously a very special moment for me in a company that I take a lot of pride in. To be able to be recognized in that way was truly something special. And I don't know, I guess I take the trajectory of my career to be one where it doesn't matter where you start. It's all about how hard you work and the kind of grit that you have to kind of keep going. I mean, it's a tough industry to work in, but I truly believe that if you have the right personality and the right spirit of perseverance, there is nothing you can't do.
That's a fantastic philosophy because I believe in the same thing. And I pass that on to my son, who obviously his success has shown that he believes in the same thing as well. So, it's interesting, your journey. I find it more interesting than a lot of other people I've interviewed because of the fact that you grew up around, your grandfather doing some
Mm.
light construction. He didn't build any like farmhouses or anything like that.
No, he was a cabinet maker, so he's a
Yeah.
Finnish carpenter.
So, and then you went to engineering school. Now, let me ask you the question, if you knew more about the construction industry, would you have gone to engineering school?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
mostly because I think even going into school, you know, by the end, I definitely knew I wanted to go into construction because I was just too hands on. I needed to see too much of that. But even as a freshman, I probably had an inkling that's what I was doing, anyways. So, yeah, I mean, it was I felt pretty confident that I knew how to, put things together as they were, but I wanted that engineering experience to be able to understand why things worked the way they did. So I think it kind of helped reinforce a side of the knowledge that I didn't have.
Now, when you were in school, like middle school or junior high school, whatever they want to call it nowadays, when you were at that point, did they have the trades in the school where you would have woodcraft or steel work, metal shop?
So didn't have a shop class. What we had was they called it a tech ed class, and it was we would build things like the balsa wood towers, and you'd put weights on them, and see who could design the best tower that could withstand that, and we had to make these. Cars out of using mouse traps that powered them. So it was a little bit hands on, but wasn't so much of a shop class. Um, Now, where I did grow up, there was a vocational school in the town, and there also was an agricultural section of the high school that I went to. So there were certainly other routes that were available to people who knew that they were going to kind of follow those paths. But I would say in middle school and high school, I took the more traditional path.
Well, being in the industry now, do you think that the trades should have shop in the schools like they used to have years ago? Because that would give the student an idea of the direction. I think that would give them an idea
Mm,
of the direction that they would want to go as opposed to the direction their parents want them to go.
yeah.
Because parents over the years have directed their kids to go, you got to go to college.
Yep.
Not all kids are students, and not all kids are interested in that. And I think if they started with trades, they might, a shop, they might have thought, well, I think instead of going to high school, I'll go to a vocational school, and then maybe I'll become a carpenter or uh, a metal worker or something on that idea. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I, I would wholeheartedly endorse having schools participate in more of those programs and offering those to students. Um, I, I do feel we've taken a little bit away of the alternative paths from kids to understand what they could be doing that might be different. Those opportunities to work with your hands, somebody might not be able to get that opportunity at home. They don't even know they have a passion for it. They don't have a family member or somebody else who is able to show them that route, and maybe experiencing that for the first time at school opens up that, hey, I really enjoy this. I really like doing this, and maybe the light bulb goes off where that's the path they start to head down. I'm also a big believer in um, kind of practical experience. So I think the more classes and opportunities people have to uh, work on things or develop skill sets that they can use throughout their life, even if you don't want to be a carpenter, having some basic carpentry knowledge helps you in your life. Um, to this, I still enjoy on the weekends. Most of you know, my wife picks on me because she says you never relax. I mean, when I'm home on the weekend, I'm more demanding sometimes than I am at work on my side projects that I have to get done. I'm up from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. just working on stuff. And when I'm building stuff at home, it doesn't always go according to plan. It probably never does. You start out with a plan, but there's always these little, oh, I didn't think about this. How am I going to, marry these two products up? How am I going to make this lap work? And I love that real time problem solving. I love that and I think it really helped develop me and hones my skills as a person in life. I mean, professionally, personally, I it develops a lot of confidence that I don't have all the answers, but I know I can figure it out, and I know I can get through it. To that end, like I said, I'm a big proponent of just the more uh, skills people can have, it just makes you a better, well-rounded person.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you because I had to take a shop because at that time it was a requirement. So I took wood and I took the metal or whatever they
Mm,
called it back then. Uh, I think that if I didn't take that, I probably wouldn't know how to use a screwdriver today, you know? But it taught me those skills. You're right, and I also think that it would teach a student on the direction they want to go in life as well. Um, we are in a position, well, it's getting better now in the construction industry, that it's difficult to find young people wanting to go in the direction of
mm,
construction or as a metal worker or a steel worker because they weren't focused on that, and their parents weren't focused on it. And you're a perfect example. Going into the construction business wasn't like, they would thought it's a hammer, bang a hammer and a nail, and it's not like that anymore. I mean, that is a part of it, but
mm.
there's all kinds of tools now that kids would enjoy working with, like lasers and robotics, different things like that. So, I mean, I, I think the times are changing, and hopefully that's more kids will go in the direction. But,
Yeah,
we went through that period where we weren't be able to recruit a lot of them.
yeah. I mean, we're definitely reaping a little bit of what we sowed. I mean, you mentioned parents are probably the biggest obstacle, and they kind of want to sometimes predetermine their child's life. I mean,
Exactly.
everybody wants their kids to do better than they did, but better is subjective. You have to enjoy what you do and find happiness in something and find your passion. So, um, I think that there's for many decades now, it would probably uh, made our high schoolers feel like they were less than if they weren't going to college. And I think that you're right that that mentality has shifted to people see the upsides of having skill sets. I mean, and that's not to say you can't support those skill sets with further education. When you asked me about going to engineering skill, that was or going to engineering school, that was really to shore up the skills that I knew I needed to have in that. I mean, I've encouraged people who are, I want to be an electrician. Well, great, go get those electrical skills. Also, take a couple of business classes because you may find that 5, 10 years from now, you're a damn good electrician, and you got a couple of good guys who are working for you, and you can go start your own thing. So shore up those skills with other sources of knowledge. Doesn't mean you have to go to a 4 year get a 4 year bachelor's degree, but there's knowledge is plentiful, and there's many ways to obtain it.
And there's also online classes now, so it's much more convenient to be able to get the skills. And you're right, if they have those skills to learn how to run a business,
Mm-hmm.
the two put together can make you very successful.
Absolutely.
And also, go through the different levels of management in the construction industry or the plumbing or whatever industry you are in the trades. And that can make you very successful as well. I know a lot of people in the trades now that are very, very successful and they don't own the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's not, you're not going to be living on the streets, believe me, if you go into the trades. So, Matt, tell me a little bit what you're working on right now since you've gotten to the position you're in.
Sure. So I've been working in the life science and advanced tech market for about 7 years now. We have a couple of keystone clients that have campuses that we're regularly doing work on. Obviously, the last couple of years have seen a dramatic slowdown in the life science work, which isn't surprising because it was overbuilt in the COVID era and post COVID. So we've shifted our focus to more of how can we service clients with existing campuses, help them right size their businesses. One of the things I figured out a few years back that I do really have a passion for is figuring out what the real project is. And I know that might sound a little confusing. I'd like to say that there's the building and then there's the project. The building is the physical thing. The project is so much more. The project is the people, it's the relationships, it's the whys that are behind the building. And if you can really figure out those whys and how to create an effective team, the building is almost an inevitable outcome of a successful project. So I've at each step in my career, I've always tried to figure out how I can be the best at whatever I'm at and how I can build something. Though you know, now I'm only really building in the sense of putting things together with my hands on the weekend. During the week, I'm figuring out how to build that team or build that consensus that is going to make the building ultimately successful. And that's kind of a whole different level of strategy and planning that I've come to enjoy.
And you have found this out that there's a lot of gratification when you're in this industry because sometimes you look at, and my son's a developer, so he's taken me to empty lots,
Mm,
empty lots of land. Sometimes even they're disasters. And I go back a year later, and it's like this beautiful development. There's an apartment complex there on that land, or there was a shopping center now there, and it's beautiful. But
mm,
at the end of the project, he feels that gratification that, even though I didn't work on that, I didn't put, I was in the planning. I started from the beginning to the end. And now look what almost like this is what I created.
yeah, I mean that's to me it's almost more amazing because it started with someone's vision, right? Somebody thought something in their head, and now that thing exists in the real world. So everybody, whether they're physically on the job site, uh, building the parts and pieces, or they're planning it, I mean, the whole thing doesn't work without every step along the way.
Yeah, I just had a show in Maine, and there was few developers on a panel, and that's one of the things they all talk about is that they had that vision.
Mm,
They knew what it was going to be, not the actual end game of the project, but they knew where it was going to come out. They had an idea, and 99% of the time, it's a good idea. Sometimes you do have those chances that it's not going to be great, or it's going to take 50 years before it becomes something. But overall, most of the developers I know are very practical and have that vision on how it's going to end and how it's going to turn a nice revenue for them.
yeah.
So, but and that's what makes it such an interesting industry.
Mm.
Now, do you still use some of those engineering skills in what you do?
I do, but very, very lightly. I still have my concrete manual and steel manual on my bookshelf right above me here, and sometimes I'll look up a member size and their properties, and it's usually more to ask questions of the design team and help come up with proposed solutions to problems, but no, never in depth, not doing any design work, that's for sure.
No, but it does come in handy. I know a couple of developers that they were already developers, but they felt that they needed to go back to school and get an engineering degree because it helped them figure out what they're thinking about and how it would work out if they do go forward with that project. So it gives them that idea, and it gives them that sense of making more sense of a project, you know.
Yeah.
So
Uh, yeah, again, I to me it's all about problem solving and understanding why things work the way they do. I I think that like I said, I spent summers on my uncle's farm, and there were times where a piece of machinery would break down, a part would break, and as a kid, you'd be like, "Oh, well, we got to get that part," and it's like, "No, we don't have to. We don't have time to go get that part. We gotta finish what we're doing now. We have to get. Let's go find something that can." Serve as that part. If a pin broke, it's like we don't have to go get that exact pin. We just got to find something that fits in this hole and can act like a pin for the rest of the day until we can go get that. So why do things work the way they do allows you to really be able to figure out how to problem solve and troubleshoot something when an issue happens, because issues are going to happen, problems are going to happen. How do you react to it? How do you adapt? How do you pivot? Um,
and that's true. And I've had friends that, they're from they might not even be in the trades, but they have that ingenuity, I'm going to call it. With something breaks,
mm,
instead of running out to the store, let's figure out what can we use that we have right here and try to fix it for a temporary use for the time being. And they can figure it out. Sometimes it's common sense, and sometimes it's that their mind works like an engineer. They can figure those things out. What was that piece doing before it broke? And what I have to do to make it function the same way. So
mm.
yeah, yeah, that's true. So when you're working in this industry, are you working? What kind of project? You're not working on as many life science projects that he was talking about. So what other kind of projects are you working on?
Sure. So working at a document restoration facility in Andover right now. They're getting ready to move from their current place to another spot. So we're fitting up that space. I have another team that's getting ready for a project down in Rockland, which is actually a office fit up project for Rockland Trust's new headquarters. Like I said, there's a lot of repositioning, renovations, a lot of smaller projects that pop up because people are trying to make the most economical use of the space that they have. So any lab work that we're seeing right now is with existing clients who maybe they need to use one user group from one space in their building to another space, and it's really helping more to support those moves or equipment upgrades, or a new piece of equipment is arriving. It tends to be on the smaller side right now. But yeah, those opportunities are out there, and it's a good time to continue relationship building with your client and work on problem solving. Now more than ever, people are looking for who can be creative, who can help me solve this challenge with extremely limited resources. So,
Or get through the challenges that we have now with tariffs and
oh yeah,
supply chain and all these other things. Though it wasn't just a black and white type of industry before. Now they throw a lot of other things in to make it more difficult for guys like you, and architects. You got to figure out ways around things, which sounds like you're capable of doing things like that. You know?
yeah. No, I enjoy it. There's a lot of good questions that you can ask early on of your client and the design team that I find when I first getting on a project, it's you got to do a little bit of archaeological work to figure out those whys of what are they trying to do really, and how did they get to where they currently are. There's a lot of good clues that can be unearthed in that, which is going to help you be a better partner and inform your decisions as you start to move forward on that project. Um, it's
Yeah, and, a lot of the guys in the industry that I've talked with, and I talk with quite a few throughout New England and New York, and it's always a matter of we have so much work in our pipeline, to keep busy for like 5 years,
mhm.
and then you get into these periods like the last the past year, a lot of guys were getting a little nervous. What's going to happen? We don't know what direction things are going to go. We don't know if there's you know changes in how the zoning's going to go, the permitting, all these things in the future, or the next 5 years. Will there be a lot of projects that are starting up again? And now I'm hearing the opposite. A lot of guys are starting to see new projects starting up where
Mm.
a lot of the developers, a lot of uh, these projects that were in the thought process kind of put a hold on, but now they're going forward with it again. Are you starting to see that as well?
It's starting to, yeah. I mean, there are a number of people who have put themselves in a good position to recommence those projects in the spring. Um, be nice if they were a little more staggered out from one another, but I think there's only so long people can hold off. At some point, you got to move forward. Um, and I think that maybe there's a little bit more clarity. People have adjusted to the new norm again, a new norm, and are ready to actually realize that they gotta get going. So yeah, I think we're seeing some of that start to free up. Hopefully, in September and closer to the end of the year, interest rates tick down a little bit more, and that just furthers encourages people to get started in earnest next year. Um, yeah,
Now,
I
now,
think we see the same thing.
now you say so you started in Connecticut, so you probably have some relationships there, and you is the office in Erland an office still in Connecticut?
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
We had a small office that was kind of operating out of the Stanford area for a while, um, but it, we didn't have as many of the opportunities come forward as we had hoped, and there were a few key resources who were important to the succession of the company that were needed back at our home office. So I think that's kind of what drove the decision of rather than try to bring in new people and make a push down there, let's bring the resources we have back and concentrate on our succession planning.
No, and well, the reason I bring up Connecticut is
Hmm.
because a lot of the real estate broker, commercial especially, brokers, developers, they kind of stay, they've always had issues in Connecticut. It was very difficult to do business, is what
Yeah.
the word on the street was.
it's an
But
odd it's an odd state. It's a state with a complex identity because it's torn between Boston and New York. It
yeah,
doesn't it does it's a I love it. It's still home, but it's kind of it's a pass through state, right? I mean,
right.
one half of the state is Yankees and Giants, one half of the state is Patriots and Red Sox. So
Well, I
it
always
kind
say
of has that
south and
it kind
north.
of has that tug of war where people are pulling it
Right.
in either direction. I think the same thing's true on the business side. It's kind of uh, yeah,
Well,
caught in the middle.
I'm starting to hear that after 2025 or 2024 at the end, things are starting to get better in that state. Is
Mm,
and obviously there's probably a lot of opportunity because of the land, where we've taken up a lot of land, and in Massachusetts, well, in the key areas, I should say. Uh,
mm.
Connecticut has some uh, good land, and for development.
Mm,
and if they're open to bringing in developers, there could be some great projects then and started up in Connecticut.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to hear it because I do talk with a lot of developers and real estate people in Connecticut, and that's all they complained about over the years. Now I'm starting to hear a little different story, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And maybe Erland will start opening up an office there again.
I'd like that.
Or would you go back?
Never say never. Maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, we've built a life for us up here now, but both of our families are still in Connecticut, so who knows how things changes. Certainly, as they get older, it's something that comes to your mind more and more.
And sometimes it says, oh, it's a good thing I don't live that close to them,
There's
right?
there's that too.
So, and Erland is a fantastic company. I mean, have worked with Erland for many years, and I've always met such great people in their organization. I'm not sure if it's their hiring process or if it's the work culture that they offer, but it's always been great people that work there.
Hmm.
I'm not sure how you feel about that, but I know I felt that.
To me, it's a great fit. Um, the McDonald's, that really have cultivated that family culture, and uh, I it's the right size company for me. I never wanted to be part of a giant company where you just kind of feel like a number and does anybody really know I'm here, or is it just my serial number?
Right.
Um, and I also didn't really want to be in a super small company either, where you had to be everything and maybe you didn't have the resources to help support you. So this has really been, at least for me, the ideal size of we're big enough that we have the resources to work on complex projects and service the client, but also not so big that I'm just do I matter here? I mean, I have always felt like I mattered. I've always felt like I have a place and am understood, and have tried to impart the same onto others as I've brought them in here.
Well, you must have enjoyed your the years you've been there because now you're a partner.
Yeah.
And to get to that point, that's kind of an accomplishment.
Oh,
If you
absolutely.
if you worked at a much bigger firm, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think you would be in the position you are today, or maybe in 20 years you might be in that 20 more years of being in that industry? You'd be
Yeah. I
in
mean,
the
who knows? There's a big what if there, and
yeah.
maybe not. I don't know. I just there's a little bit more intimacy to this size where uh, I kind of know everything that's going on. I'm aware of all the projects. I know what the teams are going through. I can uh, sit and have one-on-ones with people and get to understand, what they're looking for and help develop them. And I guess I never felt that I would potentially have the same at a larger firm, and maybe that's where I was as more concerned, is that I would feel like I start to lose too much contact with the work.
Right.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, I do still have that carpenter soul, and I still have that desire to really be involved in the work. And um, as you start to move up the ranks, there is always this fear in the back of your mind that, am I going to lose too much of the touch that I have with that? And I guess I'm fortunate enough right now to say no. I feel close enough to the work that I'm satisfied, and to me, it's a good place to be in.
It's always you talk about having visions, and I always ask people that I run into that have been one career for long period of time, if they have kids, would they want them to go in that same direction?
Mm,
Let them make their own decision, but when they see you go to work every day and you're happy to go to work every day and you're happy at the end of the day, because you enjoyed what you did, a lot of times kids will see that and that's what they want in their life.
mm.
If if you if someone if you're I don't know if you have kids or if you don't, but if you had a kid that wanted to go in the direction of being in the construction industry, would you say, yes, of course, go ahead? It's a great business.
Well, my wife and I don't have any children, but if I did, I mean, I wouldn't encourage them away from it by any means. I would encourage them to really uh, find their passion, whatever that is, and immerse themselves as closely as they can in that. Again, I really enjoy problem solving, and that's that just how it manifested in me was that tangible uh, sticking this piece to that piece and connecting them together was the way that problem solving really uh, resonated with me, and being able to stand back at the end of it and look at it and see a thing and know that I made this thing that wasn't there before was what it just really moves something inside of me. Again, my wife will look at me and Sunday evening, and I finished doing something, and she's like, "You've been standing there looking at it for 30 minutes, like you haven't moved. Like, are you still breathing?" And it's like, yeah, I really like that thing I did. So, I mean, that's you have to learn yourself, and what are those things that you take pride in and you care about, and try to surround that with you in your life.
So every time you go out for a ride with your wife and you see something that you worked on, you always, I worked on that. Or
Yeah.
we did this and this and that. And when we were working on that, you always have a little story to tell.
Yeah, there's always that. Usually, there's more ribbing than anything else. I built that. Oh, really? You built that all by yourself? Like, no, obviously not. But I played a role in it, and I'm proud of that.
I do the same exact thing. My my younger sister just got married and she brought her husband to our house and I redid the whole, not personally, I hired people to redo those. And he came in and I said, and I added that porch, I put that porch on. I put this new kitchen in. I did all this stuff. And at the end, and me showing him everything, he said, "You did all that work?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You must be a real handy guy." I said, "No, no, I didn't do it personally. I hired people to do it, But you use that because you're so involved in something that you feel like it's your project, and but yeah, that's how we portray things that we work on.
Hmm.
Not that I worked on any of that, but it's things that you are involved in some form of fashion. So, what do you see your future in the industry? Retirement, obviously.
Yeah, eventually, we'll see what year that comes in.
Well, you look like a young guy, so you might have a couple more years left in you.
I am. I still have a couple of decades in front of me. Not quite 40 yet. So there'll be time yet. I think I think really helping people find their place in this industry, help them grow their careers, help them provide stability and opportunity for their families. I mean, those are that's what's important. I think that as much as I like building, I would love to look back at the end of my career and kind of do a mental tally of, uh, here's how many people worked for me or with me over the years, and you know, how many people does that roughly represent in families, and how many lives did you affect by providing them with the opportunity to provide with their family? I mean, it'll be it'll be in the thousands for sure. Um, and I think that's you know it's that's the real pride that I think that I'd like to take at the end of my career is how many people was I able to positively impact and help them create a better future for themselves.
So you are more or less like a mentor. Are you? That's what you think of yourself as a mentor for younger people coming in or people coming into the industry.
Yeah, I mean, the older I get, for sure. I mean, you have your uh, call it your day job at work, the things that you're responsible for, but increasingly, I feel more responsible for that, and I'm sure it will continue to grow to be a bigger part of my position, and luckily, it's something that I do enjoy. There are certainly challenges and frustrations to it, but it probably has the opportunity to provide the most meaning.
Yeah, and I think young people that are really motivated to grow in any kind of industry, the best way to that avenue is to latch on to someone like you that
Mm,
would give them that learning experience or show them the best way to get through different projects and different things they're working on, and they'll grow, as opposed to someone that I'll do everything my own way. I don't want to, I don't care what you say, this is the way I think it would work, because let's face it, the kids that are coming up into the work fields nowadays are a little different from, well, lot different from when I was a kid, but they're probably even a lot different from when you were young. There's a difference from 'em.
yeah, I mean, I guess reflecting back on one of the first questions you asked me about, um, do you still have shop class in school? I think what I had more than anything else in school, and in not just in school but in life, was I think I had really good people who taught me how to learn. Not necessarily, here's the curriculum, shove all these facts into your head, but I had some really good teachers in school who taught us how to think, how to teach yourself. And outside of school, I had, people in my family, like my grandfather and my uncle, who taught me how to think in real terms in the real world about here's a problem, how do we figure it out? Um, and I, maybe we've lost a little bit of that. Maybe we've focused too much on the here's what the facts that we've or the information that we deem is necessary and just memorize these things, and we've lost the whys and the how to teach yourself, the real critical thinking. But I mean that was a real knowledge bomb when I realized that I don't have to know everything, but if I know how to teach myself it, there's nothing I can't know. And I just the confidence that bestowed upon me, and it was a real game changing moment to realize that I can figure things out. Um, yeah,
And that gives someone the ability to have some common sense as well, I think, which that's not, there's a lot of people that don't have any common sense at all. But, I think this kind of give you that training to be able to give yourself the common sense you need to function in a day-to-day life, which unfortunately things of that nature are getting tougher and tougher to see in people. But that's a different story altogether.
yep,
We don't have to get into that today. That goes with changing the world, which I'm not going to be, I'm too old to do that. So Matt, I think we're coming to the close. What do you, what, any words of wisdom that you want to put out there? Besides the words of wisdom that you've already presented to us, because there have been plenty. You,
Yeah.
you are, I like your thought process. You know, it's very, very important to think the way you think, because it makes, uh, like I was saying, common sense and uh, thinking through things. You know, those are things that make you sort out things in life to be a lot easier than going down the tough roads that you might follow. So I commend you for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. Um, Thinking is hard. I mean, it's tough. Uh, it's what differentiated us from the rest of the animals and has allowed us to really, in a very short span of time, in the grand scheme of history, to get to this really advanced technological point. Thinking is what's really made us different. I am nervous with uh, the rise of technology and specifically AI, which has all the potential in the world to keep advancing us and make our lives better. But we need to remember not to stop thinking, and we can't just take the easy answers that something spits out to us. Um, there's a real danger in forgetting all the things that got us here, and how to think for yourself, and how to evaluate what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Um, so I would, I guess my advice to everybody would be to not be afraid to figure things out for yourself. Um, those are things that I take pride in, and everybody should be. Yeah, it might be a little scary to embark down the, you know, I need to take a moment and separate myself and think on my own. But um, I don't know how. What is your existence if you don't do that?
Right.
What are you? What's left? You're not. You're just kind of a shell.
That is
Um,
fantastic advice, because if everyone wants to look back and see, you know, the cell phones and all the, you know, laptops and iPads and all that, they can see how things have progressively changed where people are dependent on them,
mm,
where they can't think without having it. You know, you go to some young person and say, "Oh, how much is two plus two?" They don't, they say, "Oh, wait a minute, let me get my phone." You know, they can't sort it out in their head. And
mm,
I think that does it. These new technology, it's great. It does a lot of things for you, but it does take away a lot of things that we were capable of doing many years ago that now we can't do.
yeah,
And you're right with AI, that is a scary thought that now what else are we going to lose? You know,
yeah.
it,
Well, I mean, I think one of the first things that we've lost that we need to get back is the ability to listen to each other. I mean, we are so immersed in uh, our own worlds and our own world of information that our things are now telling us, that we've forgotten to really look each other in the eye and listen to each other. And I'm not a pessimist. I mean, I think we can get back to that. And I'm not a uh, anti-technology person. I think it's a good thing used correctly. It's a great thing. It will help us find cures to diseases that we never thought we could cure. It'll help us take us to places we never thought we could go to. But um, if we don't keep thinking, I don't know who we're going to be when we get there. So
right.
we have to do both. We have to
I,
walk and chew gum.
Yeah, we have to have both in place. It's just the way it should be.
Mm,
It's not you're right, not being a pessimist about it. It's just that it you can't take away people's way of thinking and and just depend on machines to take over
mm,
because the machines won't need us anymore. You know, it'll be like, there were movies in the 60s and the 70s about computers and robots and they were taking over and not having, we were like the minorities. Humans were a minority. We don't
mm,
want to get to that point, Not that I hope it never gets to that point, but we don't want to
mm.
be in that position. Matt, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I
Yeah, thank you.
and you're a very intelligent guy, and I
It's very
well,
kind of you to say.
well, I do like the way you think. I do. We're talking with Matt Combs, and he is with Erland Construction. And thank you, Matt, again
Yeah,
for
thank you
coming
for having
on.
me.
I'm Rick Kaplan with the New England Real Estate Journal. You're listening to the NEREJ NYREJ podcast. Until next time.